what's on there is from.
And that's because there's already, the building on this map is already there, existing building. Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I can hear you certainly.
So, I have a question. And in full disclosure, I'm property, so I'll let the chairman decide.
Oh, all right.
Confuse myself.
Hold on, give me 1 minute on that.
Okay.
Do you have an extra?
I'm still asking the question.
Sheet, I'll keep it. Hold on, that's, did you receive notice as an abutter?
Yes.
Okay, I believe that is typically grounds for recusal from the board. You make that decision, but I think abutters are typically presumed at least to recuse that, or it's presumed typically that abutters should recuse themselves from sitting on matters that they abut. I believe that's the case. Board have any?
I agree. I'm not going to have a problem with that.
Mark, it is your, I believe it's your option though. If it goes wrong, of course.
No. It is my option.
Well,
I participated, but didn't vote.
so a recusal, you're supposed to step down and for the length of the hearing that you're recusing yourself from, you're supposed to be seated with the crowd. You are allowed to, of course, ask questions, comment, et cetera, as a member of the public if you recuse. But you would vacate your seat at least for the period of this hearing. And then once this hearing is done, you rejoin the board.
That
That's okay with you? All right, so board member Mark is going to be recusing himself from this hearing. I'm sorry for this little sideshow. That does mean I should ask you now. You do have a right to have any variance heard by a full 5-member board. That said, I should let you know, we have 5 members, permanent members, -1 now, and 1 alternate member. So if you did wish to exercise that right, basically it comes down to hoping that at the next meeting that all 4 of us plus the alternate can make it. If we can't, then we are where we are, and there's kind of an indefinite until you decide to go with the shorter board, or eventually everybody hopefully shows up. So it's up to you if you want all 5. The reason for that is you need 3 votes in order to get a yes on a variance. And if, of course, if you have 5 people, then perhaps the odds of getting that 3rd vote is higher. So it's up to you. How would you like to proceed? All right, great. Sorry, that is all formality. So great. We have 4-member board sitting on this. Member Mark Mark Craig has been recused, and we will move along. All right. Where was I before that? We were asking questions. Great. Does anyone else on the board have any questions for the applicant?
I don't have questions at this time.
The applicant, go ahead and take a seat. We're going to open up to the rest of the public. I should have said this before you spoke, but we are in a public hearing or a public meeting. Does anyone from the public like to speak first in opposition to this proposal? Go ahead if you want to. Just make sure you state your name and address.
Mark Craig, 9 Lane. So I guess my question was, you put in 3 lots in addition to the home?
It's not, so existing house and then 2 pending lots.
The one I'm most concerned about, not so much the frontage on the left of your house, but the rear of your house. It's kind of a long shape. So where would the driveway be? To the left of your house going into it?
It's right now it's going to be between this shared 16-foot driveway and section All the way up into the list and then kind of go out again. Just to get us.
Well, I don't know if we, you know, gone to fire department about this, but given that environment, did he tell you you have like a reservoir of water?
You just have to have an in-home sprinkler system. He wants an in-home sprinkler system, use the one that wanted 16-foot wide around them.
Okay, I'm surprised it's not 20. How long is it driveway? You know?
They're going to be between 7 and 10 people.
700 or 800 feet, so
I will say,
that's,
so all of, but beyond the frontage requirement, everything else on this will have to go in front of the planning board. And so the planning board, because they're the ones who actually authorize the subdivision of the lot. So the planning board looks at, I know they look at any of the fire department requirements for turnarounds, that kind of thing. They look at wetland impact, which I have no idea if this has or not. They look at weird shapes, so to speak. So one of the requirements is that you can't have something that is too awkward of a shaped lot. And again, I haven't looked past the frontage, but if that is a problem, that is something they do at the planning board. So that is all stuff that they go into at that point.
like safety would, you know, part of our purview.
Yeah, that is a good point. If the 150 feet, or I should say, if the 50-foot difference in frontage is a safety concern, that is certainly within our purview. It's just if the other parts of a possible subdivision
Right.
are the safety concern, then that shifts over to the planning board. We're really just focusing on the frontage question. Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's, you know, part of it, because you gotta have a driveway to feed them on, it's kind of sandwiched behind your house. To go up in there. I would think you'd need a 22-foot driveway wide for turnaround fire trucks. Reservoir at the end. I know somebody just went through this in Kent, so pretty familiar with it. And it, you know, he ended up spending about 180,000 for this additional. Essentially, it's a pool under your driveway.
That's system.
Yeah, a system. So, you know, along with that side driveway, you're talking $300,000 to get back in. As it doesn't bother, I'm just thinking that particular lot is kind of sandwiched in there.
It is, and I don't have any intention of bringing the house to the name. Really, we plan to keep it, and it's not going 1 acre, was a, put it in current use and stay. Put it, little off, so.
Yeah, if you got, you know, need for the property, you know, somebody else can build over it.
It's set off.
Yeah, it's gonna be a separate property, so. And you're just selling the land.
Oh,
Well, no, it's. We're not
Right.
anything to sell and give it, but we have to do it for tax purposes instead. I mean,
I just think that, you know, from a zoning standpoint, that's, you know, that front is, look at it. It's not good. It's exactly why we make these zoning regulations. To avoid, you know, unsafe.
It could still be 2 driveways.
All right. I'm gonna cut this slightly here and just say, although I've let it kind of go on a little bit, maybe a lot of it, we should address all comments to the board, to the chair. And that is to say, you know, whatever questions you might have, the proper procedure would be, you ask them here, you will undoubtedly get to answer everything you want to answer. You'll come back up and answer them. So I know I didn't step in before, but, so with that in mind, let me just ask, what, are there specific items that, it sounds like you have a concern about the 200-foot frontage not being followed? Do you have any items that you specifically want the applicant to answer in a moment when they have a chance to come back up?
200 for the front.
So we are working.
All right. Again, you'll have a chance. Okay, so,
I mean, essentially, we're gonna set a precedent. Everybody in Kensington could subdivide their lots. And that's the precedent it's set in something like this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're gonna we go back and forth. So besides the applicant, again, I promise you have a chance, many chances you want. Anyone in support from the public of the application?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Just please introduce yourself and give your address.
You're welcome. My name is Stephen Nicologianis. I live at 7 Danesbury Road. My wife Lisa and I have been there for 25 years. It's a private, very private property. We're comfortless. This project has already made us, it has impacted our property. Our property is not as private as it once was. And we believe it's just be less private if this should get approved. This road that he's talking about, it's about 25, 30 feet off of our back line. On north line. Pretty close. Big road goes up a hill where that one of those lots is. It's going to be pretty noisy for us. Due to that loss of privacy, we do believe that if we decide to sell it, it will affect our resale value. Another big concern would be the front of that property on Amesbury Road where the driveway road is going to go in. They haven't been here long enough. 2015, when we had 100+ inches of snow in February, that whole area flooded on Amesbury Road. There's a culvert there, but the culvert couldn't handle it. It was in the road. Water was in the road in the spring. I think that's a big issue. The side of that where he's talking about, he doesn't have the 50 feet, the 200 feet. That's all clay in there. And it holds a lot of water. He's talking about putting in another driveway in there. You have to raise that driveway. All that was done. In that area. That's a spring peeper area, frogs. Turtles, you name it. But if the project doesn't win and get the go ahead, we do ask that our privacy is given some consideration. Up until now, I don't think that's been done. We had a logging operation that can only be described where it's a gravel pit. Familiar with where the driveway goes in off Amesbury Road, it's a gravel pit with steep banks on the north and south side. The logging operation was set up on that south facing bank. And with 2 weeks straight, I don't know how you describe this logging operation, a big operation. The chipper was a chipper on steroids, that's all I can kind of describe it as. Our house was literally shaking for 2 weeks straight with this operation. Windows rattling. I just don't think we've been thought of at all in this whole situations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Can you actually stay up for one moment?
Yeah. No, it's done.
So that's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Thank you. We'll go back to, again, applicant in a moment. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak about this application? Go ahead. Again, please give your name and address. And again, I'll reiterate, we're talking about the frontage. Things that have to do with other aspects of how the property is going to be used are likely going to be dealt with in planning. We're talking about frontage. Go ahead. Well, hold on. Sorry, what? I think that's a great idea, but let's save that for when they come up to speak, and I will have on the agenda at that point that they will show us the driveway and explain it to us.
There's a lot of outside, there's a lot of wetlands. It's quiet, there's the power lines, there's the reserves, it's close to bird sanctuaries. I think that setting the precedence in terms of subdividing in this way and private properties that we have in this town as a terrible precedent to sell. We move here, people move here and buy property here because they want the quiet and they want the space. And to have subdivisions like this come into place, which back up into people's sides and backyards, is not the town that I want to live in. And to set this precedent by overruling, a zoning rule is unacceptable in my perspective. And I can tell you, I walked back there today. I haven't been back there in a long time, but I was shocked. It was fascinating that you talked about this. I was shocked to see how barren part of that property was and the logging that they did. I hadn't been back there in a long time. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, those poor people will get back up to that. I've lived here for 24 years almost. And it's not what we want in that really private area and to overturn zoning rules to be able to do things like that in a quiet space. People don't know that that space exists unless you live in that corner, and there are many corners and areas like that in the town of Kensington. Unless you live, and a lot of us do, you would be shocked at the impacts of having that space subdivided and shocked at the impact of the someone who spoke about to this property. I was, and I encourage probably for walk back and speak like that before you make any food consumption. That was a little more. And that impacts the wildlife, impact. I worry about the wild. If you can see how close my ground is to this and what that would happen to put up a home there, I worry about that because I'm on the same, water resources that our house for us on. And not that you probably won't think people, but I garden on that side, and I can tell you right now, I've had to do nothing but Hollander for 20 years, being the event. It's not something that anybody would want to build on because the land is wet, and more wet. And I think it's probably, should be preserved as that as well.
Thank you. Any questions for this member of the public? All right. Thank you. Anyone else from the public before we hear? I see one more.
Good evening, my name is Ray Parker, live at 9 Greenwood Road. This property abuts mine, Steve's abuts my property also. We moved up in 2010, my daughter and her son, their husband, he was a breed. Actually, she moved up to get a beautiful piece of property, a nice pond on the property and everything. There's a trailer that runs off along the right side of my property, heading on that. This gentleman here, I talked to him, he came over, and we talked, and told me what he's gonna do, and I said, listen, I'd like to keep this stream, all of it on my farm. Because it feeds my pond, feeds my, I have a dug well, I just put in that feeding well, and we can see there's no rain, but, so we talked, we walked the property, he told me where he's gonna put his house and everything. Far enough away from mine, that's not a problem with it. And I have the plans here, he gave out of his property so that I would have all of the stream. Because that was something my grandson, he's 12 now, he was one room was there. He would take care of that stream all the time, he'd walk in, all the sticks out, big little dams, you know? So no matter what goes on, you know, he did have a heart, and his wife would say, you know, I understand, I'll change my property line so that you don't lose your stream. So I was worried the same as most people, but what if they stop? You know, someone else might, you know, do something with the stream and, you know, where am I with them? That went all in the pond on my property, you know? So it was nice enough to do that, and I can kudos for that, you know? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none. Does the applicant want to make comments? And answer questions and such? I'm gonna say we're pulling up the map, so we had the question about where's the driveway. We'll ask you to go ahead and show that to us up here, but if you could go ahead with any other comments you might have before this.
So I did get the property model. Sorry. Food operation. Approved by the town, it was submitted to the planning board, so they did have a timber harvest permit to involve then as for the variance for the frontage, the reality from 4 feet short to I'm asking for 50 feet just to make property lines.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but you would need still a variance for 4 feet short.
I would still need 4 feet, I'm still
Okay.
4 feet short. I need a variance of 4 feet, 4 feet short of 200. I'm asking for 50 feet so that the property to the middle, property line to the middle lot line isn't in front of the existing house. All along the street, we drop street. So 4 feet for 200 feet is. As for the middle lot, I mean, everything's moved up and running and I have to have all the wetlands surveyed and delineated with all 50-foot setbacks. The cost of putting in a driveway for some cistern or some sprinkler system that is stopped working with the fire department. We are talking to the fire chief. Again, everything is moved on through one engineering. Just trying to black and say that. Anybody else talking about it, we want to stop that and walking it back. I'll show you exactly what the house is. I let the only 100 foot roads between me and Steve or the buffer for the driveway, so for more than 100 feet from this thing. The driveway, yes, it was good. As it comes in, it goes up in bank. Over with the 100% tax. Solid. That's it.
Again, we're gonna pull up the thing in a moment, but while we wait on that, do we have any other comments or questions from the board for the applicant? Yep, sorry, if you could stay up to.
The driveway won't have any impact right now. I haven't talked to them, I haven't been told to talk to them, going even variance and stuff too, but. Like I said, I did have a weapons scientist over there in the spring. And he did log the entire property. And he flagged anything that was burning through, was wetlands, he flagged the property, so. It has been, so maybe not like times, once we should, but it did have to pay for a third party for several times.
Anything else from the board before we work on this driveway? Peter, how are we doing on that?
I got it on my laptop. I'm trying to get it here.
Sure.
If this request was denied, What does it prevent you from doing if it gets denied?
It basically just prevents the three total lots. But I'd still move forward with the existing house. And just figure out something.
I guess that leaves me with the question, why do you need 3 lots or want 3 lots? This just because then you can put 3 houses and it's a little bit more cash, or is there some other reason that you need, et cetera, 3 lots rather than just 2?
Just aim to get some. So that's absolutely the fee for extra lot.
To maximize, so is it to maximize?
Max.
Gotcha.
And like I said, I plan to reduce. As far as this.
We cows and pigs and everything else.
Anything else for the applicant? All right, well, given that we are having trouble with the image getting on the screen, if it's okay with the board, I'm going to suggest that we take the biggest one we have and we have the applicant show us up here where everybody can crowd around and take a look. Is that okay with the board? All right, so we're gonna get up and the applicant's gonna show everybody. If you want to see this, see where the driveway is, please come on over.
Okay. Oh, great. That's.
I think the problem is a big old. It would be very, it was small. Actually, once it's going to be defined. This is all this has been. It's like some of the. Man, it's the confidence. This one, that one, this one, this one. Yeah, I really want to.
And you've done.
Oh, that's gonna be a little bit. No, that's just, they let you out. I'll let you. Yes, it's the board, and then other questions.
So the creek house is the price of 3,
Burns down right in here. So like, so if you look out now, I was. I think that's very close.
it's like all wooded. And if it wasn't wooded, and you had 2 lots, which you still have a drive. So you're now on lot 1. So you would have the driveway that would only go to lot 3.
Yeah.
And then how would lot 2 be accessed?
Well, this, lots of questions. It's that's the urgency. But there's no access. They just went off. No, well, you said, this is what I'm talking about. Well, so,
It's a lot.
this would be part of only one. This is the second one, that this is one of the, not really, we just want to plan. But that was the one, okay.
Where? And that was not, was that correct? You're not proposing that this is.
Yeah, it's a second.
So there's definitely. And there is only one drive. What is the difference? What impact? Would it minimize the impact that they're concerned about? I mean, they're still going to do whatever they want with this property if they own it. So if they don't have, they don't put a house there, is there gonna be, is that gonna change anything? Like, the concerns that you sounded like you had are not being affected by the driveway.
We have a picture with them.
Right.
Looking at, that's why we bought. So, don't worry about. What we bought.
It's not, like specifically, from the water lines, like, right, like there's a stream that goes that way, right, depending on where the touch is, right? Whereas, well, I don't know if it's talked to the water, right, but that's all downhill, and it's easy to factor in for each meter, which is like what on well. Draws. Yeah.
Any answer to your question? I think I'm getting it. It's bad on. I'm not.
But you're fine, although, you look at that, wouldn't see it now. And it's, we get approved, it was, we don't want. Yeah.
We have a response.
I really, but it's very strict to things that we need to do with this map.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if there's something we all need to look back for, that's fine, but there's other questions beyond that, we want to bring back to the map. Is there anything else we need to look at the map and decide?
Hold on, Mr. Chairman, if I'm looking at for that, and look, that if I would have been with that. I think it's fine, it's just. That's a house to the applicant, and we get approved, and there is a house built there, it will affect that, so as to the buy. I don't know my to be wrong. That would be feelings to. You still see that it's been actually awesome. A lot of our state. But for the. 800 feet. So it could still be a giant offering place. If I do anything off, it's going to.
All right, I'm gonna ask that we take this back to normal sitting.
I just have one question for Tony. Do you have any concerns?
So let's hold on, there is an order. Everything else. Go down, they can go up, go down, it's fine. Let's have something put up on the screen, that's fine.
And if we sit.
Okay.
And so one of the carry, they're studying, we take minutes, we do a great job, the minutes reflecting that, we can.
Yeah, we'll say.
And I, that's. It's not cooperating, you know?
I don't know what's going on.
All right. So we've had a discussion with the applicant, where the applicant's shown us the location of the driveway and also indicated a few other things on the plan that we couldn't pull up on the screen. Now that that's done, are there any other questions for the applicant from the board? All right, seeing none, does the applicant have anything else you want to say? Of course, if something else is said, you will have a chance to respond again. But at this moment, is there anything else you would like to say? Perfect. Thank you. All right, is there anyone from the public who has additional comments, questions, et cetera? Perfect. All right. Again, please state your name and address so that we can take it in the minutes.
Stephen Nichols, yeah, 7 Old Mainsbury Road. I think there should be a big concern for Tony that the lot behind us, like you said, at times, be good distance behind us. There's gonna be an awful lot of runoff. If it's paved, especially if it's paved. My God, you got 700, 800 feet coming down from the top of that hill, wherever the driveway is. Coming all the way down, skirts our property. North side, and then it funnels right into the pit. I see that as a big concern. An awful lot of water, if it's paved.
Thank you. Yes, hold on. Which of these three?
One else directly behind me. I'm at 7 Old Mainsbury Road.
It's lot 3 is what you, abuts us.
You just said lot 3.
Thank you. All right. Anything, and we have one from the public? Yes, that's right. As I said before, things like wetland, design of pavement, where a driveway could go, everything else is the planning board's remit, but of course, the frontage to some extent may impact us. To the extent it does, that's what we're here today to discuss. All right, we have another one?
On zoning board, what you're moving on, the things to add, the precedents that have set, and making a change like this, because of towns. All of, private lots with lots of acreage, that comes about, and really said. If you watch back, and you saw where it is, and how it's stuck to land, quite precedents in terms of where people can actually build homes in this town. So I just encourage you to walk back and think about it.
Thank you. I do have, actually, I have a question for the applicant before whether or not. Yeah, go ahead, up. And in a minute, I'll let you respond to anything else that's been said that's new. But I do have a question in that, have you had someone look at the requirements for current use, which is to say, as I understand it, you need a minimum of 10 acres to put something into current use, and that does not include whatever building space and such is on a property.
Yeah, that entire lot. Yes, that's 10.1 acres.
Oh, so the idea is it's the whole lot, and if ever a home were to be put on it, it would have to be taken out of current
Yes,
use.
the entire lot.
I see, okay.
There's no plans for a home there. All doing the subdivision. Asking the lots and then 10.1 acres into current use. So that's
Got it. Is there anything else you'd like to respond before I close the public hearing?
the water. That will be addressed. Had open since the spring. Issues. Roof, and shop. So it's possible.
Thank you. All right, anyone from the public have any more comments that we have not heard before? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments. Now we're on board deliberation. All of you and the applicant have a copy of this variance workshop or worksheet. As you know, there are 5 requirements in order to grant a variance. So, in order for us to grant a variance today, the applicant must have demonstrated, 1, that the variance is not contrary to the public interest. 2, that the spirit of the ordinance is observed by granting the variance. 3, that substantial justice is done by granting the variance. 4, that the values of the surrounding properties are not diminished by granting the variance. And 5, that literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Before we discuss each of these individually, do we have any discussion from the board as to this application?
Precedent, we've had other applicants request a variance from the funding requirement. And they've been denied.
I'll give my view, and that is that I don't know if there's any legal precedent to say, such as if there's any validity of somebody coming in and saying, hey, you granted this one, so you should grant mine. So of course, that has some amount of persuasive evidence. But I will say that the purpose of the 200-foot requirement is in order to keep from congesting, in part at least, to keep from congesting the town, the area, and the roadside views. And to maintain our ordinance states the purpose as the quote, ensuring safety from fires, protection of water and other natural resources, and preservation of rural charm. And so at least to the extent that we are attempting to preserve rural charm, diverging from the 200-foot requirement, I suppose is less charming, so to speak. That's my personal view. That said, I don't know how much it does matter. I mean, look, it's a small amount, but that's what the town settled on. And I will say, beyond that, what he wants to do with the property, in my view, is certainly up to him. If he wants to log it, as long as the permits are there and everything else, it might be a bummer for all of us or for neighbors, but if he's allowed to do that, he's allowed to do it. So in my view, it doesn't much matter to me what he's been doing or will be doing on here, as long as it all passes through planning board. But the one thing that does seem to matter to me is that this requirement has a reason. And I don't personally see anything about this property in particular that would mean that we should diverge from that 200-foot threshold. That's my view.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the chairman said, and but how many other applicants have come before us with similar requests? They were denied. So it's kind of weighing on me.
I will also note, we heard a couple other things from abutters and from the applicant. We heard that it's going to be less private. I think that does speak directly to the frontage requirement, which is to say, if you cram more houses together, then things are going to be noisier and more crowded. We heard an opinion that that would impact resale value. I will add that this is right outside the commercial district. So if ever there was somewhere where the area might be accommodating of a slightly more squished layout, I would think this would be it. That's not saying,
Contiguous to the.
yeah, again, that's not to say it's not in the commercial district. So we have rules. But as far as the area that it's in, this is probably one of the better areas that could squish things a little bit, in my view at least. we did hear testimony about it being wet and such. I don't know that that has too much impact on the frontage question, though that would obviously go to planning. And we heard testimony that they have been good, responsible, and courteous neighbors, which I just personally appreciate, but also, you know, I mean, it does say good things for how this might develop in later stages, perhaps. And that's what I have.
Versus, I don't know if it would make a difference now, but does the applicant have the ability to do that if we move forward into analysis?
They do, I would say, looking at this map, it might cause other problems in that, you know, when they get to planning board at that point, they're gonna have to justify this strange jutting out portion that's just to satisfy the frontage and may, depending on how it's cut, may impact, looks like might impact a septic area and I don't know what else. So they certainly are allowed. Yes, they are allowed to come back and ask for just the 4 feet if they redraw the lines. That's certainly true. Any other discussion from the board before we go to the specific requirements? All right, seeing none, we'll take them one at a time. The first requirement is that the applicant has or has not demonstrated, well, the requirement is that the applicant has demonstrated that the variance is not contrary to the public interest. To this point, we've heard that it would not, it's not a huge ask, so to speak, as far as at least the three, considering the three together, it is a 4 foot difference. That said, a specific lot is 50 feet, not 4 feet. That's not what they're asking for. So, and also on public interest, you know, we have the spirit of the ordinance and the fact that the public interest is that, you know, the rural charm and the spread out nature of our town be maintained. That's what I've heard at least. Do you have any discussion or a motion as to this first requirement?
The variance is not contrary to the public interest.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of the applicant has not demonstrated that the variance is not contrary to the public interest? Please say aye. Aye. All right, that's 4. We're going to go through these, notwithstanding that it does need to satisfy all 4, but we will go through each one. The second requirement is that the applicant has demonstrated that the spirit of the ordinance is observed by granting the variance. Again, I think this is more or less the same discussion we've heard. In addition, it's at least near the commercial zone. That said, the spirit of the ordinance is to divide or to separate out lots and maintain the rural charm. Do we have any discussion or a motion on this one? Is there a second? All right, all in favor of the applicant has not demonstrated that the spirit of the ordinance is observed by granting variance? Aye.
Aye.
It's 4. Third requirement, that the applicant demonstrates that substantial justice is done by granting the variance. We've heard on this factor that it'll allow the applicant to maximize the number of lots on the property, or at least to more efficiently maximize number of lots on the property. And of course, against that, we've heard the spirit of the ordinance, rural charm, et cetera. Do you have any discussion or motion on this one?
Yeah, we can still utilize the property. So I would say the applicant has not demonstrated that substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
All right, do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, 4-0. 4, the applicant must demonstrate that the values of surrounding properties are not diminished by granting the variance. More density, we've heard about more density. We've also heard it's next to the commercial district, to the extent that might matter. And we have heard at least one neighbor of the opinion that this will negatively impact their property value. But the applicant has to affirmatively demonstrate that there will not be harm to nearby properties. So do we have any discussion or motion on this one?
Make a motion, the applicant has not demonstrated the values of the surrounding properties are not diminished by granting variance.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4. Finally, the applicant has to demonstrate that literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. I think we heard more or less the same that we heard on the previous ones, which is to say that the hardship is not maximizing the use of the property to be able to divide it into 3 lots. And that's, of course, just juxtaposed against the town's interest in having the ordinance enforced and spacing out the properties. Do we have any discussion or motion on this last requirement?
Demonstrated a little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then finally, to wrap it up, I would entertain a motion that the applicant has not demonstrated or that the applicant rephrase. I would entertain a motion to deny the application for a variance.
Make a motion to deny variance for the application. Is that all you need, or do I? need-
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Peter can fill in the.
All right.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that is a denied application, and with that, will end the hearing for the application for map 3, lot 9. You'll receive a written decision shortly. That'll also have a written statement of facts, findings of facts. I don't recall what the appeal period is, but there is a set deadline if you want to appeal this. So keep in mind, if you do wish to appeal it, you do have some number of day deadline to do that. All right, thank you. Thank you to the public for weighing in. All right, that hearing is over, so I would invite Mark to come join us again. All right, so I have we have a few things before we wrap up today. We have some meeting minutes, and also I realized that our rules say that we should elect a chairman for 1-year terms. I think I've been doing this for longer than a year. So let's start with that one. I'm happy to keep doing it if you guys want, but if somebody else wants to do it, then you are absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I'll jump in. I'll make a motion to have you continue as chair. Second.
All right.
All in favor? It was unanimous.
All right. Well, it was worth a shot, huh? All right.
You weren't going to get that.
Excuse me, I have to get that in writing. I'm gonna write it twice.
We had all the votes stacked against us.
It was worth a try. All right.
Good try.
On to meeting minutes. I told Peter today, I personally haven't had a chance to really closely look at August 14th, but I have looked at August 5th and at July 29th. I would suggest, based on that we, unless anyone has any discussion on them, we go one after another on those two only. But if somebody wants to,
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from July 29th, 2025 as people.
is there a second, or is there anyone who wants to give any edit to this one? All right, motion second to accept July 29th meeting minutes. All in favor? All right, we're good on 29th. Any discussion on August 5th? This was the short meeting. Now, I will acknowledge that we only two members who are here right now were at that meeting. That said, you don't technically need to be at the meeting in order to approve the minutes. Now, you have to be comfortable with our procedures for reviewing, recording, taking minutes, et cetera. If you're comfortable with that, those procedures would produce the correct meeting minutes, and those who were there like the minutes, then we can.
I think it might be appropriate. I'm gonna stay from making a motion. I wasn't at this meeting, but.
I make the motion to approve the minutes of August 5th.
All right, I was there, so I will second that. All in favor for approving August 5th?
Aye.
Mark, did you vote for it?
Was I there?
No.
You weren't.
This was,
So I.
That's okay. Right, so we can just take a vote.
I just told you that you know.
That's all right. Do you want to abstain or do you want to, we have voted,
Abstain.
you'll abstain. All right, so that's going to be 4 and 1 abstain. So the August 5th are also all set. Now, everyone has copies of the 14th. So I'm going to say in the next few weeks, if you have any edits, whatever, please send them to Peter. I will do a thorough review of this and get any edits to Peter. And then we can approve those for 14th. Is there any other business for the board? Stacy's?
Yeah, it's 30 days.
No, he is not, and I believe there's an email somewhere where he told us he didn't intend to.
Okay.
He spoke
Is
to
that
me, called me on the phone to get information on how he could get his certificate of occupancy because he was taking all the material out of his trailers and he was going to move the trailers off site.
Good.
And so he does not need a setback. He does not need a storage change from the variance. So once he completes that, I also stated from the original planning board requirements that he had to put in retention pond and test wells, that he had to get them certified, and something on his septic had to be certified for the building inspector to complete his job. And as soon as he gets that from the engineering company, he notifies the inspector and he'll go out and do the full site inspection on it to make sure it works. So.
Great. All right,
Chairman, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
any second? All in favor? Aye. All right, now that that meeting's over, I do want to say, that meeting got away from me a little bit, so to the extent that I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Well, there was a little back and forth in the crowd and all that, but.
It's something fault.
I have a question for you.
Troublemaker.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Before you go.
Thank you.
Okay.